inches of delusion went for the Amazon boss Jeff Bezos, and of course it's for professional
and in the country, and wants him to help her become a billionaire herself, which you could.
It started like a whisper, a small murmur inside Amazon studios. No announcement, no headlines, just a quiet decision whispered behind boardroom doors. But within hours, it roared like a thunderstorm across Hollywood. Jeff Bezos was done with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. Not negotiating, not delaying. Done. One of the biggest names in tech had just pulled the plug. And when the news reached Montecito, insiders say Meghan Markle broke down in tears. Not frustration, not anger, real uncontrollable panic. Because this wasn't just another deal falling through. This was her comeback, her billion-dollar vision for dominating Hollywood, collapsing in one brutal stroke.
Parties, you do not sign it. You're a VIP. If you've got to make people sign documents, you don't get into Jeff Bezos' house.
No one gets into Jeff Bezos' world without delivering results. There's no room for chaos. No time for excuses. And what had once been pitched as the Sussexes' grand return to media dominance was now a fractured mess of stalled meetings, postponed projects, and executives quietly pulling away. Meghan knew the signs. Phone calls getting shorter, emails colder. No more, "we love this pitch," just vague delays and calendar pushes. The moment Bezos shifted tone, Meghan felt the ground shake. She wasn't wrong. Because Amazon doesn't babysit celebrities. You deliver or you're replaced. Those 6 words rang like a death sentence in the halls of Montecito. And this wasn't just any decision. This was the kind of strategic move that rattles an entire industry. It wasn't personal, it was precise, and it spoke louder than any press release ever could. Behind the scenes, producers were frustrated. Studio staff were confused. The Sussexes, they said, kept trying to bottle lightning. Every pitch was some version of the Oprah interview, emotional, dramatic, messy. But Hollywood had already moved on. Meghan hadn't, and now Bezos had made it official. The Sussex brand was no longer worth the investment. But this chaos didn't come out of nowhere. It had been building for weeks, maybe months, quietly, relentlessly. And what happened in the final pitch meeting would seal their fate forever. The room was sleek, clinical, humming with tension. Meghan arrived confident, smiling like she already knew the outcome.
Shining for us. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, very lucky.
This was her big moment, the pitch she believed would redefine celebrity docuseries forever. She spoke of cultural impact, global influence, inspirational storytelling. Her words danced with optimism, vision, sparkle. But across the polished table, Amazon executives weren't dazzled. They were silent. Still, watching. One insider later said it felt less like a business pitch and more like a therapy session dressed in designer metaphors. Then came the moment that shifted everything. A senior executive leaned forward and asked, cold and clear, "What makes this project stand out from the 50 others we've seen this month?" And the silence that followed, it could have cracked glass. Meghan launched into an impassioned explanation. Visibility, representation, legacy. But no one blinked. Because in that room, it wasn't about inspiration, it was about numbers, ROI, deliverables, reality. And reality was unforgiving. The meeting ended early, quietly, no applause, no handshakes, just chairs scraping across hardwood and Meghan walking out with a smile she couldn't quite keep steady. Inside, she knew. The energy had shifted, and just days later, Bezos made the call. There was no drama. No long-winded statement, just a ripple of decisions made behind sealed doors. Amazon was pivoting, greenlighting big projects from proven creators, pulling away from what insiders now called celebrity-driven chaos. Meghan and Harry weren't just out, they were replaced before they even left. The message was clear. This wasn't personal, this was business. Cold, strategic, and for Meghan, devastating.
Now we know Jeff Bezos is Amazon. He's connected to Amazon. And who has recently done a little, who's apparently done a little cameo.
Because Amazon wasn't just a media partner. It was the last domino holding her empire upright. Spotify had already walked. Netflix was cooling. And now, Bezos had turned away too. 3 rejections. 3 closed doors, and as the weight of it all hit, Montecito fell into silence. But not peaceful silence. Strategic silence. The kind that says everything's on fire and no one knows what to say next. The moment Bezos' decision leaked, the reaction was instant and explosive. Phones buzzed like they were wired with electricity. Studio assistants froze mid-email. PR teams scrambled. Agents whispered the phrase no celebrity ever wants to hear. It's happening. Across Hollywood, it felt like the sky cracked open. TikTok edits exploded. Twitter threads spun into chaos. Gossip YouTube channels went live within minutes. Was Meghan canceled? Did Bezos dump them? Is this the official end of the Sussex media empire? Comment sections turned into digital war zones. Some defended Meghan with fury. Others mocked her like a failed reality show contestant. But the ones paying closest attention weren't the fans or trolls. It was the Hollywood insiders, the producers, the network execs, the power brokers. And they all saw the same thing. Bezos wasn't just cutting a deal. He was making a statement, one that would ripple across the entire industry. Then came the real bombshell. An anonymous Amazon insider leaked details from the final pitch meeting. It wasn't pretty. According to the source, Meghan walked in like a queen. The project? Unfocused, glossy, all aesthetic, no substance. She spoke about changing culture. They wanted content that delivered. One exec was blunt. Amazon doesn't do inspirational therapy. We do results. Another called it a vanity pitch. And when Meghan couldn't answer the critical question, what makes this unique? The meeting unraveled like cheap thread. Hollywood doesn't tolerate dead weight. And once that leak hit the blogs, everything spiraled. Back in Montecito, the mood shifted from shock to crisis. Meghan reportedly locked herself away in her room. Hours of silence, then pacing, then tears. Harry, meanwhile, was furious, less at Bezos and more at what it all meant. Because this wasn't just a deal gone wrong. This was the loudest signal yet that Hollywood was done, that their story was overplayed, that their brand was, in whispered boardroom terms, fatigued. And as the walls closed in, Meghan began to feel the panic rising. She had put everything on this moment. The Amazon deal wasn't just a partnership, it was the crown jewel of her comeback. The media empire, the global stage, the dream. Now it was ashes, and the silence from Bezos? It was just getting louder. Inside the Montecito mansion, Meghan went into full crisis command. Calls fired off, emails drafted, PR statements brainstormed and rewritten. She wanted to take control of the narrative, immediately. The goal was clear: fight the rumors, kill the noise, reclaim the spotlight. But something strange started happening. The phone stopped ringing. The replies got slower. Publicists who usually jumped at her name were suddenly unavailable. Friends, real and fake, ghosted. Even the most opportunistic influencers didn't want to be associated with the mess. The message was unspoken but deafening. Hollywood smelled trouble. And in this town, no one wants to be the last person holding the bag. Meghan's power circle evaporated. The industry turned its head and looked the other way. One source put it simply, once Bezos walks, everyone else walks faster. Meanwhile, Harry tried to hold it together. He reassured Meghan, told her it was just one partnership. But even he knew better, because when Spotify cuts you, Netflix ignores you, and Amazon freezes you out, you're not trending, you're toxic. And Bezos? He remained silent. No statements, no leaks, no clarifications, nothing. And that silence was brutal. Because in Hollywood, silence is rarely empty. It's strategic, it's a signal, and everyone heard it. As Meghan spiraled, the gossip machine went into overdrive. Paparazzi flooded Montecito like it was the Oscars. Royal commentators fired up their live streams. TikTok sleuths posted breakdowns of every move. Reddit spun wild theories. News anchors asked one question again and again: where is Meghan? Because usually she responded to everything. A shady tweet, a bad headline, even a whisper from the palace. But now, silence. And in that vacuum, the narrative turned savage. One Hollywood exec was overheard muttering, "If Bezos stepped back, others will too. No one wants to be the last one at the table." And across the ocean, the palace watched carefully. They weren't celebrating, they were preparing, because they knew Meghan well. And when she feels cornered, she doesn't retreat, she strikes. The communications team began crafting responses. Royal aides started circling. The feeling was electric, like thunder waiting just off stage. They knew something was coming, and so did Meghan. She was pacing the mansion like a general before war. drafting speeches, mapping a counterstrike, her eyes locked on her laptop. She was ready to take back control, ready to reshape the headlines. But then Bezos moved again. No press conference, no sit-down, just one line. A crisp, emotionless corporate statement issued through a spokesperson. We are reviewing our partnerships and adjusting future commitments accordingly. No names, no drama, no blood, but enough venom to end a career. The internet exploded. Hollywood knew exactly what it meant. Meghan froze mid-draft. Harry, staring at his phone, went pale. It wasn't just a rejection, it was a declaration, a calculated public distancing. Bezos hadn't just closed a door, he had bolted it shut and turned off the lights. Inside the mansion, the air shifted, staff moved quietly, tiptoeing like any wrong move might trigger a blast. Meghan was no longer furious, she was silent, still, not dramatic, just devastated. Because her worst fear wasn't bad press. It was irrelevance. And now the headlines were everywhere. Bezos cuts royal ties, Sussex future uncertain. In less than 48 hours, Meghan's empire went from a roaring fire to smoldering ash. Instagram went into meltdown. YouTube commentators streamed for hours. Gossip blogs posted countdown clocks. Everyone was waiting for a statement, a leak, a sign of life. But Montecito was frozen, and the silence was the story. Meghan, still hopeful, still stubborn, began drafting her next move. Phone calls, back channels, influencer outreach. She built an entire comeback playbook overnight, but none of it mattered, because the world had already decided. The Sussex brand wasn't trending anymore, it was trembling. Even the most loyal supporters started stepping back. Deals evaporated before the ink dried. Allies disappeared. Producers backed out, and with every new headline, the message got clearer. No one wanted to be next on Bezos' blacklist. Harry tried to stay calm, tried to shield Meghan from the headlines, but the calls kept coming. British tabloids, royal biographers, PR firms fishing for gossip. Everyone smelled a collapse. And in the middle of it all, Meghan sat alone, watching the internet refresh, hoping her side of the story would break through. But nothing came. And just when it seemed the storm might pass, Bezos delivered the final blow. A single post, sharp, unexpected, viral. No names, no photo, just a veiled line, a business titan casually reminding the world that some bets aren't worth making twice. It hit Montecito like an earthquake. Meghan froze. Harry's face, according to one source, went completely pale. The media sprinted to their keyboards. Headlines lit up across the globe. Every anchor, every streamer, every gossip blogger locked in on the same question. Is this the end of the Sussex Hollywood era? There was no tantrum, no Instagram Live, just stillness. A painful, quiet realization. Because when Jeff Bezos walks away, the rest of the world follows. And Meghan Markle, the woman who once dominated headlines, lit up red carpets, shook royal traditions to the core, was now facing the question she feared most. What happens when even the billionaires say goodbye?